When life feels overwhelming, here's how to lighten the load. When life feels overwhelming, it's easy to believe that the weight pressing down on you is something you have to carry alone. You wake up already exhausted, your mind racing before your feet even touch the floor. The endless to-do lists, the expectations, the silent battles you don't talk about, everything builds until it feels like you're drowning in a sea of things you can't control. But what if I told you that the key to lightening the load isn't about doing more or becoming stronger, but about seeing things differently? Imagine standing in the middle of a vast desert, carrying a heavy backpack filled with things you think you need: fear, guilt, responsibility, ambition, regret, comparison. The weight is unbearable. But you tell yourself that dropping anything would mean failure. You've been conditioned to believe that struggle equals worth, that suffering proves strength. But have you ever stopped to ask, why am I carrying all of this? We spend so much of our lives trying to control things that were never ours to hold. We cling to expectations set by society, by family, by ourselves. We measure our worth by productivity, by success, by how well we meet an invisible standard. And when we fall short, the weight increases. But here's the truth: you are not here to carry everything. Think about the moments in your life when you felt truly at peace. Were you burdened? Were you drowning in worries? Or were you present, connected, alive? What if the reason life feels overwhelming isn't because of how much you have to do, but because of how much you refuse to let go? There's a story about a man who spent his whole life chasing after wealth, success, and validation, only to realize on his deathbed that none of it had ever brought him peace. He had built an empire but had never truly lived. The real tragedy was not that he had run out of time, but that he had spent his time carrying the wrong things. Ask yourself this: if today was your last day, what would matter? Would the emails, the deadlines, the opinions of others hold any weight? Or would you long for one more moment of laughter, of love, of stillness? We complicate our own lives by attaching ourselves to illusions. We think happiness comes from having more, being more, achieving more. But the more we chase, the heavier we become. Life isn't about accumulating, it's about releasing. Think of a child playing in the sand, building castles that will be washed away by the tide. The child doesn't cling to the sand. They don't mourn the loss of their castle. They simply build again, laughing, knowing that nothing is permanent. What if we lived like that? What if we embraced the impermanence of things instead of fearing it? You don't have to hold on to every worry, every responsibility, every expectation. Some things are meant to be put down. Some things were never yours to carry. The weight you feel is real, but not all of it belongs to you. Some of it is the weight of the past, the mistakes, the regrets, the what-ifs. Some of it is the weight of the future, the unknown, the fear, the endless what's next. But neither the past nor the future exists right now. The only thing that is real is this moment. And in this moment, you have a choice: to continue carrying everything or to start letting go. But how do you let go when the weight feels impossible to drop? You start with one thing, one thought, one belief. Maybe it's the idea that you have to be perfect, or that your worth is tied to what you accomplish. Maybe it's the guilt you've been carrying for years, or the fear that if you stop running, everything will fall apart. What if you set it down? Just for a moment? What if you took a deep breath and allowed yourself to exist without the pressure of being anything other than who you are? The weight you carry isn't what defines you. And the freedom you seek isn't found in doing more, it's found in surrendering. Surrendering doesn't mean giving up. It means recognizing that not everything is within your control. It means trusting that even when things feel chaotic, there is a deeper order to life. A rhythm that doesn't require your constant effort to maintain. Think about the trees. They don't cling to their leaves in the fall. They don't resist the changing seasons. They release, trusting that new life will come again. You, too, can release. The burden you carry may not disappear overnight. But every time you choose presence over worry, trust over fear, surrender over control, you lighten the load. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real secret. You were never meant to carry it all. The art of surrender, how to find strength in letting go. The heaviest burdens are not the ones we carry in our hands but the ones we hold in our minds. The expectations, the fears, the unspoken pressures, they build upon each other like bricks in a wall until we feel trapped inside a life that no longer feels like our own. But what if I told you that the greatest strength doesn't come from holding on, it comes from letting go? Letting go is an art, not a weakness. It is not passive resignation. It is not apathy. It is the conscious decision to release what no longer serves you so that you can move freely through life, unburdened by things that were never meant to be yours. But here's the problem: we have been conditioned to believe that control equals security. We cling to things because we think they define us. We hold on to toxic relationships, unfulfilling jobs, impossible expectations, because letting go feels like failure. We have been taught that suffering is noble, that enduring pain makes us stronger. But strength is not measured by how much you can endure. It is measured by how much you can release. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, holding on to a rope. The rope is frayed, pulling you toward the abyss. You're gripping it with all your might. Your hands bleeding. Your muscles shaking. You tell yourself that if you just hold on a little longer, you'll find a way to climb back up. But the truth is, the only way to survive is to let go. The art of surrender is about realizing that some things are out of your control, and that's okay. Take a moment and ask yourself, what am I holding on to that is keeping me stuck? Is it a relationship that no longer brings you joy? A version of yourself that no longer exists? An idea of success that doesn't align with who you are anymore? Letting go is terrifying because it forces you to face the unknown. But what if the unknown isn't the enemy? What if it's the beginning of something greater? Think about the caterpillar. It spends its life crawling, moving slowly, staying close to the ground. Then one day, everything it knows dissolves into chaos. It breaks apart inside its cocoon. It surrenders to the transformation, not knowing what will come next. And only by letting go of its old self does it become what it was always meant to be. The same is true for you. But how do you begin to let go when fear is screaming at you to hold on? First, you must recognize that fear is a liar. It tells you that if you let go, you will fall. That if you stop trying to control everything, your life will spiral into chaos. But the opposite is true. The more you release, the more space you create for what truly matters. Try this. Close your eyes and imagine yourself standing in the middle of an open field. In your hands, you are holding a heavy stone. This stone represents everything you are afraid to release. Your worries, your regrets, your need for control. Now imagine opening your fingers, letting the stone drop. Feel the lightness in your body as the weight leaves you. That feeling, that is freedom. You see, we think we need to carry everything ourselves. But the truth is, we are never alone. There is a deeper force guiding your life. Whether you call it faith, the universe, or simply the natural flow of existence. Every time you surrender, you align yourself with that force. You step into the current instead of fighting against it. Have you ever noticed that the most beautiful moments in life happen when you stop forcing things? The best friendships are formed effortlessly. The most meaningful experiences arise when you least expect them. Love finds you when you are not searching. Peace arrives when you stop resisting. Surrender is not the absence of effort. It is the presence of trust. It is waking up in the morning and choosing to focus on what you can control, your attitude, your perspective, your actions, while releasing the things you cannot. It is understanding that no amount of worry will change the past. No amount of anxiety will control the future. The only moment that exists is now. And in this moment, you have the power to choose freedom. So I ask you, what would your life look like if you stopped holding on so tightly? What if you stopped trying to control every outcome? What if you released the belief that you must prove your worth? What if you let go of the resentment, the guilt, the fear that has been weighing you down? You would be lighter. You would be free. Letting go does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying. It means you trust that whatever is meant for you will not pass you by. That even if you lose something, something greater is always on its way. The tree does not mourn the leaves it sheds in the fall. It trusts that spring will come again. You, too, can trust. You can breathe, release, and step into the unknown with open hands and an open heart. Because in the end, life is not about how much you can hold on to. It is about how much you can surrender and still stand tall. Becoming weightless, the power of presence and the freedom of now. We spend so much of our lives waiting for a future moment when everything will finally feel right. We tell ourselves that once we achieve a certain goal, once we have the perfect job, the right relationship, or enough money, then we will be happy. Then we will be at peace. But what if I told you that everything you're searching for is already here? In this very moment? That the key to true freedom isn't in the future, it's in the now. Think about it, every moment you have ever lived. Every thought, every experience, every joy, and every sorrow, it has all happened in the present. The past is gone. The future is not yet real. The only thing that exists is now. And yet, we rarely live here. We are either stuck in regret, replaying past mistakes, or lost in anxiety, fearing what comes next. But neither of these things are real. They are shadows, illusions that keep us from truly experiencing life. Have you ever had a moment where time seemed to stop? Maybe it was standing by the ocean, watching the waves roll in, feeling the vastness of everything. Maybe it was laughing so hard with a friend that for a brief second, nothing else mattered. Maybe it was staring into the eyes of someone you love, feeling completely understood, completely seen. In those moments, you were not in the past. You were not in the future. You were fully here. Fully alive. What if life wasn't meant to be something we constantly chase? What if everything we need has been within us all along, waiting for us to notice? The reason life feels overwhelming is because we are always elsewhere. We live in a state of constant becoming, always trying to be better, smarter, more successful, more loved. But what would happen if we stopped trying to become and simply were? This is what it means to be weightless. To exist without the burden of needing to be more than you already are. To walk through life without carrying the weight of unnecessary expectations. To breathe deeply, fully, knowing that this moment, right now, is enough. But how do we do this? How do we step out of the chaos of our minds and into the stillness of the present? It begins with awareness. Right now, as you read this, notice your breath. Notice the rise and fall of your chest. Notice the sensation of the air on your skin. Listen to the sounds around you. Feel the presence of this moment. This is reality. Everything else is a thought. When you focus on the now, the weight of the past dissolves. The fear of the future loses its grip. You realize that you do not have to control everything because life is already happening as it should. Have you ever seen a bird worry about tomorrow? Have you ever watched a river hesitate before flowing downstream? Nature moves with ease because it trusts the rhythm of life. And we, too, can live like that. The problem is, we have been conditioned to believe that stillness is unproductive. That if we are not constantly moving, constantly working, constantly doing, we are falling behind. But what if the most powerful thing you could do was be still? Imagine sitting in a silent room, free from distraction, free from urgency, no notifications, no deadlines, just you and the present moment. Does that thought bring peace? Or does it terrify you? Most people are afraid of silence because in silence, we are forced to meet ourselves. We are forced to confront the thoughts we have been avoiding, the emotions we have been suppressing. But on the other side of that discomfort is something incredible: clarity. Because in the present moment, there is no fear. There is no regret. There is no burden. There is only what is. And what is enough. So let me ask you this: what are you running from? Is it failure? Is it loneliness? Is it the fear that if you stop chasing, you will be left with nothing? Now let me ask you another question: what if you stopped running? What if, instead of seeking happiness in the future, you found joy in the simple act of breathing, of being? Happiness is not something you arrive at. It is something you step into. Right here. Right now. Look at your hands. They have held so much pain, love, dreams, loss. And yet, they are still here. You are still here. That means there is still time to live fully. To release what no longer serves you. To embrace the freedom that comes with presence. When you let go of the need to control, to prove, to chase, you become light. You become weightless. Because the truth is, you were never meant to carry all of this. The pressures, the expectations, the past, the future. They are not yours to hold. Your only job is to live, to breathe, To trust that life is unfolding exactly as it should. And maybe, just maybe, that is the greatest act of faith. Because when you stop trying to force life to fit your plans, you realize that life has had a greater plan for you all along. And that plan? It is lighter than you could have ever imagined. It is free. It is limitless. It is now.